Welcome to Unleash Your Audacious Confidence on Win-Win Women TV. This show is all about sharing the tips, tools, and techniques that will allow you to step boldly in the direction of your dreams despite your feelings, fears, or past failures, to imagine what's possible for yourself and live the life you deserve. Well, hello, and welcome to this episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win-Win Women TV. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, and I'm so excited to share this content with you today. But before I do that, I want to invite you to check out Win-Win Women TV. We have so many amazing show hosts and topics that really inspire and affect us women. And so, go check it out. If you want to connect with me, you can go to alicia360.com. We are planning for, in the next few months, to launch several really exciting adventures for you. The first one will be a vision for your health, wealth, and self. We have that coming up just really shortly. So go to redcarpetceo.com. If you go to that website, you can sign up for any information that we might have about that. Sign up to get notifications, emails from us about upcoming events, upcoming webinars that might interest you, because we are really next year focusing on health, wealth, and self. That's our theme for next year for us to grow in those areas. So go redcarpetceo.com and subscribe to that channel. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@AliciaCouri. And when you go there, you'll be able to catch so much more content that we have over there that we're unable to share in our short time together. So today's topic, we're talking about achieving success. And the reason I chose that is our last episode, we talked about sometimes getting at this, whenever you're listening to this, that sometimes you can get in the doldrums a little bit, or get a little bit of the blues because you're not achieving the goals that you had set out for yourself. And so we're talking about goal setting, and I wanted to share just a few things. So my mentor sent an email recently, and he said that we're not always thinking. We've not been taught to think. I'm paraphrasing it, because we've not been taught to think. We've just been taught to replicate what the person before us believed. So we weren't really taught how to think. We were just taught how to, I guess, regurgitate. And that success is really, failure is not the opposite of success. That's what I want to say. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's really safety is the opposite of success. And I like to say complacency is the opposite of success. And I used to think that I could not be a success, or I was not successful, because my definition of success, so I'll go back to how we're thinking about things, because I was taught from a very young child what success is supposed to look like. And because I had this idea in my head that I could never reach there, because that's what success is, and I'm never going to get there, that I had this belief that I could never be a success. I could never be successful. And so the first thing that I want to share with you is you have to really define success. What is success to you? Not what is success to your parents or your teachers or what others thought of you. Because as I was growing up, I was not a great student, not because I didn't have the brain power to be a great student, but more so because I was compared to my older sister, who was straight A's, and She was very studious and she loved reading, and I was more outdoorsy, and I was more you know, I learned through experience. And in the school system, learning through experience that way wasn't really rewarded so much as study your books and be able to pass a test and you'll get an A. So having that experience, I saw success as having to be like my oldest sister. And so as hard as I tried to be like her, I couldn't be her. And so I saw myself as a failure, and I saw everything that I did was geared towards failing. So I had to redefine what success meant for me. And that's why, like I started this show talking about last episode that we talked, I said I would get down on myself at the end of every year because I thought I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. I had all these dreams, I had all these visions, and I didn't achieve it. But what I didn't do was actually take time to inventory what I did achieve. I didn't look back at all the things that I did right. I only focused on the things that I didn't get done. And that's what led me into feeling like I was a failure and that I didn't achieve what I needed to achieve. And after a while, I just stopped thinking that I can achieve anything and just got into complacency. And to me, that's the opposite of success, when you're getting into complacency or safety, as David Nagel calls it. And then I had to pull myself out of it when I realized, wait a minute, that's not where I want to be either. So the first thing is defining what success means to you. And then the second thing is look back, because success breeds success. And you have to do enough successful things in a successful way repetitively, and then you'll see even more success, right? So the third thing is, so one, you're going to redefine success. Two, you're going to look back at all the things that you did and realize, oh, wait a minute, I did accomplish a lot. I accomplished a lot more than I thought I did. Instead of focusing on the negative, you now focus on what you did achieve. Now, the third part of that is, how did you achieve those things? Because we don't want to be an unconscious competent. You don't want to be unconsciously achieving good things without knowing, how did you get there? How did you actually achieve that? So that's the work that you have to do, is once you realize, oh, wait a minute, I did achieve some success this past year. I achieved success that I wasn't even counting as success or wasn't even recognizing as success. But look at what I achieved. Now go back and look at, how did I achieve that? What were the steps I took, or what did I do, or did I do something differently to actually get that result? And this is where the laws of the universe come into play. There are, I would say, 4 laws of the universe that I really, really connect with and try to work. And this is one of them, the law of cause and effect. There's a law of cause and effect. You have to do certain things in a certain way to get the result that you want. If you don't do those things, you're not going to get the result. So when you're looking back at the success that you achieved over that year, now look at what caused that success to happen so that you can create that again and again and again and create that repeatable system. Remember, I said success is doing successful things in a successful way over a period of time. You're doing that consistently. So when you kind of unpack it and deconstruct what you did, then you can look at step by step. Oh, I did this, then I did this, then I did this. For instance, getting a sale in your business. If you sit back and say, oh, I want 10 sales in my business this month, and you're just believing and you're hoping and you're like, I want 10 sales in my business this month. I'm going to get 10 sales in my business this month. But you've never picked up the phone. You've never gone networking. You've never talked to somebody. You've never actually sold somebody your product or service. At the end of the month, you're saying, but I believed in it. I wanted it. I desired it. I did all those things. But what did you actually do to create that result? You didn't do anything. There are I hear a lot out there, a lot of people talking about manifesting, and you need to believe and you need to have that strong desire. But you also need to do some stuff. You need to take action. So that was number 3. Kind of deconstruct what you did to get whatever that one result was that you got, and then create that repeatable, see how that can be repeatable for you. Now, number 4, let's talk about our goals for this year, for this coming year. Let's talk about what are we going to do for this coming year? What did we do last year? What did we miss last year? And what we're going to do next year. So if there were things that you did not achieve that you're looking at and it's like, oh, I know I set this goal at the beginning of the year and I did not hit that goal. Don't abandon it. Let's kind of reframe what that is. So let's go back to that example of 10 sales. You wanted 10 sales every month in the year. And let's say you did not achieve that. All right. Let's say you fell way short of that and you got 10 sales for the whole year instead of 10 sales a month. Well, how did you achieve even one of those sales? You talked to somebody, possibly. You sent them some information about your product or service. You probably had a deeper conversation with them after the introduction. Then they said, oh, that sounds really interesting. And you're like, okay. And then you went into your sales process, you closed the deal, you got paid, you delivered the service. What stopped you from doing that again? Because that's the other part that we have to unpack and figure out. What stops us or holds us back? And when we look at the law of resistance, the law of non-resistance, that's where that comes in. Where are we putting up resistances to our own success, to achieving our own success? Is it when you start feeling, oh my gosh, I got to pick up the phone and call somebody, and your heart's racing and you start feeling nauseous and you get a headache and you're like, I can't pick up the phone and call somebody. What if they reject me? I don't know what to say. My mind goes into start spiraling out of control and I don't know what to do. And my palms get sweaty and I get clammy and I can't do that. So instead of that, I decided, oh, I need to work on my website. Yeah, that's right. Let me go work on the website, or let me go clean my kitchen, or I need to reorganize this bookshelf. And you start doing all kinds of other things except that one thing that's going to lead you to the sale. And I'm not saying those things don't need to be done, but don't do them in the moment that you start feeling that resistance, you start feeling that overwhelm. Once you start feeling that overwhelm and that resistance, that's your subconscious trying to keep you safe. Remember, safety is the opposite of success. So that's your subconscious trying to keep you safe. Another way resistance can show up is suddenly an emergency happens. I'm not saying that you caused the emergency. I'm just saying that that emergency now, well, let's talk about the law of vibration here, because we vibrate on a certain frequency. And when we have a low frequency vibration, we attract low frequency things, and low frequency things generally tend to be some sort of calamity or some sort of challenge that shows up that takes our mind and our eyes off of the thing that we were going to do or that we said we wanted to do, and it redirects our focus to something else that seems to be more pressing and more urgent. Take care of that urgent, pressing thing, but don't forget there was something else that you were going to do. And you have to be able to push through the resistance of what's showing up. It can show up physically within you. It should, within yourself, physiologically, and it can show up outside of you. And so it's up to you now to think your way through it, to problem solve your way through it. At the beginning, I started talking about what David Nagel said about thinking, that we have not been taught to think. We've been taught to sort of regurgitate what someone else says how we should think about something. But if we're just regurgitating something and we actually haven't broken through, how do I think about this differently? Then you're going to end up in the same result with the same pattern. You get into resistance, you get distracted, you go, you do, and then you come back and it's next thing you know, a month has passed and you did not make the 10 sales that you said you were going to make because you actually did not do the cause and effect things that you needed to do. And you have legitimate reasons, you're like, my car broke down. I had to deal with that. And my phone broke and I had to deal with that. And my dog got sick and I had to deal with that. And you had to deal with all these other things that was really coming up because of your own internal resistance. So think about your resistance. I know my resistance used to show up. I would get a cold, or I would get like something physical would happen with me and I would get sick. I remember one time I lost my voice and I couldn't speak and I had to present at this event. And I think having to present at that event made me so nervous. And it was, I think when they asked me to do it, it was 2 weeks away. And it made me so nervous that a week before the event, I completely lost my voice. Completely lost my voice. And they were like, well, do you think we should get someone else? And I had to push through the resistance. And I said, no, I'm going to do it. Don't worry. My voice will come back in time. I didn't know my voice would come back in time. I was fighting through the resistance that I was feeling within my own body for having to stand in front of an audience of, really influential people and present for the first time. But that's what was showing up for me. And I had to break through that resistance and actually say, yes, I'm going to do it, and continue to say yes and continue to push through that obstacle. And so resistance shows up for us. So we have to look at the law of vibration, the law of cause and effect, the law of non-resistance, and the other law that's one of my favorites is the law of polarity. So how does the law of polarity show up in our success? Well, when we are experiencing what we can consider failure, the law of polarity states that everything is a whole. It's like you can't have a yin without a yang. You can't have one without the other. They're all a whole. So if you're experiencing failure in one sense, success is available in the same place at the same time. And so if you're focusing on just the failure, if you turn yourself in the exact opposite direction and put your focus on the success, like actually start looking for where the success is. I'm like, if I'm experiencing this right now and success is supposed to also be here, because if failure or like David Nagel says, safety, this feeling of safety, if that's here, then my success is here too. So how do I turn the way I'm looking at this or the way I'm thinking about this to actually experience that success? And that's tell you, that's more challenging than it sounds. It sounds super easy. Just turn around and it's right there. Woohoo. But you really have to flip your mind in a way that it's probably never thought before in order to see the opportunity that's going to bring that success to you. Because within every setback, there is a golden opportunity there for you. You only have to look for it. But if you're looking for it just with your eyes and you're not looking through the entire situation for the success and saying, you know what, the success or the opportunity that I need is right here, right now. Where is it? And you go on a hunt and you search for it. And that opportunity will show itself to you. It's interesting how that happens. I've seen that and I've experienced that so many times in my life. I'm trying to think of just one particular situation where that has happened for me. And actually, you know what? There is a situation, and I've talked about this situation before, where I was at an event and I wanted to meet a certain person who was at that event for so long, and I felt like it wasn't going to happen. I felt like it wasn't going to happen. And that night, one of the nights, not, we were there for like 4 days, 4 nights, 5 days, 4 nights. The third night that I was there, I actually was put to sit right next to that person because I kept believing the opportunity will open itself up. The opportunity will open itself up because everybody was trying to get an audience with him. Everybody was trying to see him. Everybody was trying to, and I felt I'm a nothing and a nobody here. Nobody knows who I am. I'm not anybody special. How can I, if these people who've been doing this longer than me can't get an audience with him, how am I ever going to meet him and get an audience with him? And lo and behold, I kept the faith. Basically, I kept the faith. I kept saying, I'm going to meet this person before we leave on that 5th day. Before we leave, I'm going to have an opportunity to meet this person face to face. And like I said, lo and behold, I ended up sitting next to them at a banquet dinner in their honor for the whole night. Like my seat, I don't even know how my name was put to sit right next to him for the whole night. But because I didn't give up on that, and I didn't even know this law of polarity at this time, I didn't know anything about it. And that's why I'm saying don't be an unconscious competent. And that instance, I was an unconscious competent. I was like, I don't know how this happened, but I got to sit next to him. And all the people who were there that I had met and we were hanging out for that week, they were like, how did you end up there? And all the rest of us were in the table in the back. I was like, I don't know. So faith had a big part to play in that one for me. As I looked back at it, I was really operating in faith to meet this person and get to actually sit down and talk to them. And we sat down and talked for like 2 hours that night. So it's really important to look back at the successes that you did achieve. Look back at those successes and start to dissect and really deconstruct it and put it into steps. Put it into a framework for how you need to recreate this. Because when you're able to recreate it, then you'll see how quickly your success kind of snowballs. You'll get that snowball effect because now you've done Like I said, successful things in a successful way over a period of time. Consistency is one of the keys to success. Doing it over and over and over again, replicating that success over and over again. I want to say doing the same thing the same way, but I am not a same thing, same way kind of person. So that's why I'm saying creating a framework for your success. If you try to do the exact same steps over and over and over again, it may not work that way because you're meeting different people who might respond differently to your message. So you always have to be open and listening. I did a podcast with one of the foremost, in, I guess you could say he's one of the foremost experts on listening. And he wrote a book called Deep Listening. Oscar Trimboli. I have his book here. It's actually called How to Listen. Oscar Trimboli. So he was saying you have to be open when you're listening. You have to be open to change. You have to be open to different experiences. You have to listen with an openness. And so when we listen with this openness, our minds can be, the old thinking and the old beliefs that we have can actually be impacted by a different way of thinking and doing something. And so as you're experiencing things with people, be open to listening and adding to your framework, adding certain things to your framework to create even more success, even faster. One of the things that's really, really important, because I do a lot of strength-based work with individuals and with teams. We look at your strengths in 3 different parts of your mind: your cognitive, your affective, and your cognitive strengths. And we want to really understand how you operate. And so when I want to encapsulate all of what I shared about success in saying that each of us have our unique strengths that we bring to any situation. And so when I say, create the steps, maybe the steps are a little bit more of a framework for you where you don't need rigid steps, but you're working, it's kind of flexible in how you're going to recreate the success. You have a little bit of flexibility within there. And there are some people who would need those rigid step by step. I'm going to do it exactly the same way. And nothing is wrong with that. I'm not saying anything's right or wrong. I'm saying if this is your process to actually write it down step by step and replicate it step by step by step, then do that. And that will bring you success in that way. If your way is having more of a framework where, the steps need to happen, but they don't necessarily have to happen in the same order all the time, or there's more room for experimentation within that framework for you. If that works for you, then do it that way. What I'm trying to get at is understand what got you the success so you can create the cause that's going to create the effect that you want. So hopefully that made sense, because we want to create the cause so that we can have the effect every time and operate that law of cause and effect as we're looking at creating more and more success for ourselves in 2024 or within the next few years, 5 years, whatever it is. That is how we want to look at it. So don't be an unconscious competent. Don't just do something and think, well, I don't know how I ended up with this. I don't know how I made that money. I don't know how I got here with this success. My first business as a hair and makeup artist, I was doing that for over 20 years. And that, like, every time I got a client, I'd be like, oh, wow, a client showed up. And I was not paying attention to how I was getting clients repeatedly so that I can actually increase that when we had a low season. So don't do that. Actually create a system for yourself so that you can understand how to bring more and more success for yourself into your life. And this can go with not just your business, but in your personal life and your personal goals with your children. however you look at it, with your health, especially with your health goals, figure out what that is and recreate it. Anyway, I am out of time for today, so go connect with us, redcarpetceo.com. And I want to leave you with this. Please, as we enter into a new season, be bold, be brave, and every day, every single day, do one thing to step out with audacious confidence. This is Alicia Couri, and I thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win Win Women TV.